Hey guys, your buddy Moo Juice Magic here. Now, if you live in America, you'll probably have heard the name Robert Kennedy Jr., the Kennedy family being very famous and very political high influence, including a former president that was assassinated for the crime of trying to do whatever the CIA didn't like, allegedly. Anyway, so Bobby Kennedy Jr. has been making waves as he's like the new health guru in America. And let's see what he has to say in this particular video.
This is what most Americans innocently put into their bodies these days, and most alarmingly, into the bodies of their children. And it's no coincidence that Americans die earlier than Canadians or Germans or Italians or Japanese or Koreans or Australians or most any other comparable country. And it wasn't always that way until the early 1990s. Our life expectancy was the same or better than other developed countries. Then suddenly, more and more Americans began suffering from chronic diseases, from obesity, cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, Alzheimer's, heart disease, and all kinds of autoimmune diseases. Our maternal mortality rate soared to the highest of any developed country on earth. Same with infant mortality. Like the frog in the slowly boiling water, we didn't really notice as we got sicker and sicker.
I really thought he was going to say he was going to turn the frogs gay for a second there. That's where my brain went. Now, Kennedy does get some heat for being anti things that I can't say on YouTube because this is the second time I've had to record this video. I'd prefer not to get it removed again for saying something that I was quoting from the CDC directly, YouTube. But anyway, he gets a lot of heat for that, and of course his now affiliation with the Donald. But the guy is really involved in health and nutrition. And one of the reasons is he was a lawyer for that. He was a health lawyer for a long time. He was an environmental impact studies guy. He saw a lot of these chemicals that people were putting in their bodies and how it would harm people. And so he continues to talk here.
We've grown now to accept chronic disease conditions as normal. But now, in 2024, we're finally waking up to this cataclysm, and we're asking ourselves, how in the world did this happen? Well, a big part of it is our diet. Restaurants that serve contaminated food are fined or shut down. But when it's the government that approves the poisons in our food, a few people get very, very rich, and the toxins end up in every supermarket aisle.
Now, just a reminder of the FDA picture there. It's pretty prescient. Remember what they did to butter. Just remember what they did to butter, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration of America. Bureaucrats.
Let me show you what I mean. Doritos, Cheez-Its, Captain Crunch, gummy bears. Everyone knows that these are junk foods, so maybe you wouldn't be too surprised to see that the ingredients include a lot of poisons, including a harmful yellow dye called tatrazine, or yellow dye number 5. What you may not know is that this dye was originally made out of the sludge that's left over when you turn coal into coke for blast furnaces. It's called coal tar, and I've actually sued many big industries for legacy contamination of coal tar all around the country because it's so toxic and it's so harmful to the environment and human beings. A century ago, it was just an obnoxious industrial byproduct that everybody was trying to figure out ways to get rid of. One of the ways that they did that was by paving roads.
Another way they decided to feed it to us. That's the craziest thing about all this. You guys, when you look at your ingredient labels on your food, read the ingredients. When it says dyes or chemicals like that, that's not stuff derived from natural sources. Well, I mean, coal is technically a natural source. But you're not trying to eat toxic waste, right? And yet you do every day. It's kind of crazy.
But then a British chemist figured out that
of course,
coal tar could be used
the
to
English
fabric dye. And if fabric dye,
he just
why
did
not
fabric
food?
dye.
Food manufacturers began using
Why
it
not
to
food?
cover up the discoloration of low-quality foods that they wanted to pass off on unsuspecting customers. They didn't know back then that this yellow dye, tartrazine, causes tumors, asthma, developmental delays, neurological damage, ADD, ADHD, hormone disruption, gene damage, anxiety, depression, intestinal injuries.
This is an interesting correlation. If you look at these symptoms here, especially ADHD, hormone disruption, anxiety, depression, developmental delays, neurological damage, asthma, That just sounds like every Mountain Dew chugging neckbeard who just sits and get Cheeto dust all over his fingers, doesn't it? Or like most of the people that are part of this whole, what is it, Plan 4 or whatever? Plan, or whatever. The chicks shaving their head and being celibate.
Well, we know
I
it
can't
now.
remember.
We've known
Preparation
this for
age,
decades.
whatever.
That's why tartrazine
4B.
is heavily restricted in other countries. In some countries, foods with tartrazine have a warning label that it may cause ADHD in children. Today, it's made from petroleum, not coal tar. Either way, it's crazy to add this to your kids' favorite foods. It doesn't even change the flavor.
Guys, petroleum's not even good for lube. Why would you use it for? Why would you ingest it? Like we use water-based lubes for that, right? Like at least that you can put in your gut. Instead, we're feeding this crap to our kids, and we're eating it ourselves. We have been
This
since the
yellow dye
'90s.
isn't just a junk food. It's in the foods that we consider healthy. It's in everyday kids' snacks like popcorn, mac and cheese, fruit snacks. It's in sports drinks like Gatorade and so-called vitamin water. It's even added to chicken broth, to corn, to pickles, to mustard, and to yogurt. And so, of course, our kids get sick. And we lovingly feed them chewable vitamins which have, surprise, tartrazine. And so the cycle continues until the coughs and asthma kick in, at which point you go to pick up some cough syrup. And yeah, you guessed it, tartrazine. I've been picking on tartrazine today, but that's just one of at least 100 chemical poisons that our health agencies allow into our children's food. I can make a video just like this to talk about Red 40, BHA, BHD, potassium bromate, chemical after chemical, and on and on and on. If just one of them can cause all of these problems, imagine what they're doing in combination. That has never been studied. If we took all of these chemicals out, our nation would get healthier immediately. We'd have fewer sick days. We'd have better focus. We'd have less anxiety. Our kids would learn more easily. We'd lose weight. We'd have more energy. We'd have fewer tumors and longer lives. It's not all dark. Over the past 16 years, the government has banned 8 chemical additives that cause cancer, joint damage, asthma, and many of the other health conditions as tartrazine does. And you know what's interesting? All 8 of those crucial steps forward in our kids' health were taken under President.
Okay, it's getting political here. I'm trying to avoid the politics here, but he's right. He's not wrong at all about this. And this is true. This is something that Trump took on his shoulders and said, hey, we're going to do this. Now, politics aside, this is a nonpartisan issue. If you have an issue with this, it's because you're trying to either have an issue with it because you have nothing else to do with your time, or because you work for a company that gains something from this, or you support a lobbyist that works for a company that does this. If you're putting these chemicals in your body knowingly, look, I would rather have ugly food that's healthy and still tastes fine than pretty food that's going to give me tumors. It's just not the best thing to do to be sick all the time and unhealthy. And with me, my current health situation I've had the last few years, after being healthy basically my entire life, suddenly coming to being sick and not being able to figure out why, I've really readjusted my diet and my health. It hasn't done me much good yet, but we'll see how it goes. I was already eating pretty healthy to begin with. Like, I don't even own a microwave. I cook most of my food from scratch when I can. When I can garden up veggies, I will, or things like that. I don't really worry too much about it, but I'm already, past my prime anyway. It doesn't mean the offspring and their offspring need to be continued to eat this stuff. One thing he pointed out was Fruit Loops, and this is where I get annoyed with fact checkers. So the New York Times decided to fact check his thing on Fruit Loops, and it says, Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops as an example of a product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer than the U.S. version. But he was wrong. The ingredients list is roughly the same, although Canada's has natural colorings made from blueberries and carrots, while the U.S. products contain red dye 40, yellow 5, and blue 1, as well as butylene hydroxytoluene, and are BHT, a lab-made chemical that is used for freshness, according to the ingredient label. Oh, New York Times, you are wild. I don't know what idiot editor greenlit this as a positive argument for what they're trying to say to disprove Kennedy, but all this does is prove what he's saying, and it shows the New York Times' hand. This is an example of people not wanting to look at the forest because there's too many damn trees in the way. What New York Times is doing here, they're being against what he's saying specifically for political reason. And that's a pathetic thing to do, and it's dangerous for our society in a whole. The New York Times also, keep in mind, they denied the Holocaust when it was happening. They're known for that kind of thing. They were pro-Hitler. They haven't changed very much over the years, it would seem. And, you know, these fact checkers in general need to be curbed and dealt with, because most of the, quote, fact checking is incorrect. Snopes was one of the biggest problems in society when that became a site. People didn't realize that as it went from something pretty sincere to something completely one-sided, they were so used to it being a trustworthy, reliable source, they believed it. And other fact checkers, quote unquote, have kept in that program. And so now the facts are whatever these people agree with, regardless of what the actuality is. It's a simple statement that the ingredients in Canada are different than the ingredients in the United States. Natural colored and natural occurring food dyes are different than a chemical food dye that is derived from something in a laboratory. That's just a fact. New York Times, I don't know why you have a problem with that. They have a problem with it because Kennedy is sided with Trump on this. It's all it is to it. If you're so caught up in the politics of it, that you're so mad that one side is ahead of you right now, that you will sacrifice the health of everyone in the nation, you are a problem. You are an unhealthy part of the society. Now, we hear from health experts, quote unquote, all the time about how bad off we are. And this is a little video I want to show here because I thought it was kind of interesting. Brings out a point of view this shows in her video here. I'm going to mute it though, because these are the health experts, folks, that you're supposed to trust. That guy can't even figure out if he's a guy. Yeah, look at that guy. So, yeah. When your health experts are the same height laying down as they're standing up, they aren't experts at health. When your health experts can't decide how biology works, they aren't health experts, okay? That's just a reality, folks. Trust people that are actually health experts. You give guys like Joe Rogan shit all the time about what he says, and he's not a, quote, health expert. The guy's in better health than 90% of our population, and that's not an exaggeration. He's in his 50s, and the dude looks like he's in better shape than guys half his age that are in great shape. So keep in mind, dudes, there's people out there that want to help you, and there's those that want to hurt you. I suggest trying to get your food sourced locally, naturally as often as possible, and cook whenever you can. There's nothing wrong with a Big Mac here or there. There's nothing wrong with a Whopper here or there, except for you're buying fast food. It's gross. But, you know, once in a while, it's not going to kill you. All things in, you know, moderation aren't going to hurt you. But there's an old saying. If you have a pot of coffee and you put a drop of toxic waste in the pot of coffee, it becomes a pot of toxic waste. And if you have a vat of toxic waste and you put a drop of coffee in it, it's a vat of toxic waste. So just keep that in mind, guys. Anyway, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I would appreciate if you do. We're getting right around that 100. Hopefully by this time this video shows up and you see it, we'll be there. If not, regardless, I appreciate you for watching. And if you haven't liked the video yet, please do. Let me know what your health concerns are for the future with food-wise. Do you have any experience in these kind of things? Are you a nutritionist? Tell me why I'm right. All right, I love you in the face. Moo Juice out.